What's up guys, John from KetoBars.com. Thank you for checking out my YouTube channel, First Time Founder, where I discuss everything keto bars related and entrepreneurship and stuff like that. Today's topic actually comes from a commenter on my last YouTube video and a customer. I checked to see if they were real. It's from Greg Snyder. He says, "I'd like the bars to be bigger or cheaper. I know the keto space is developing, but we as a movement need to find markets of scale to bring down the prices a bit. Keep at it." Greg, thank you for the question. Sometimes it's hard to maintain the perspective. I'm on this side, so I forget about things that are super important. Of course, I know pricing is important to people, but the size of the product, that's another really good thing to talk about. So you talked about price. You asked about size, and what I'd really like to do is break those things into two different videos. So today I'm going to address the size. Why are keto bars 47 grams? Why are other products the size they are? And I'm going to let you in on a little industry secret. It's an industry secret. It's certainly in the keto space, definitely in the low calorie space that I'm not sure I see people talking about. So let's go. All right. The most important thing when it comes to keto is in general, this is to me, I would say that more people say low carb is the most important thing, and I would tend to agree, low net carb. The second is, to me, the only thing that defines a product as keto is being high fat. If you're just low carb, you're just low carb. Or Atkins, right? That Atkins stuff tends to be low carb, maybe higher protein, but keto, to me, suggests low carb, high fat. Don't call it keto if it's not those two things. So, that being said, net carbs is what everybody advertises. That's what you want to put on the package. Like, how many net carbs is your product? And ours are all 3 gram net carbs, our keto bars. And let me paraphrase this, or let me be careful the way I say this. When you add all the nutrition, there's rules that the FDA makes you listen to, right? The labeling rules. So a really good example is just the other day, we're getting some new stuff printed. We were going through the calculations, and we have to make sure, so I think it's our dark chocolate coconut almond bar, technically on our spreadsheet comes to 227 calories. That's if the mixture is 100% perfect, the size 100% perfect. Of course, things are mixed up, so they could be a little tiny bit off, and the FDA does grant you some space there. But they don't tell you to put 227. They ask you to round to the nearest 10. So we put, to comply with that, we put 230 grams or 230 calories on our label. So that goes for each different category. So when it comes to fat, they ask you to go to the nearest gram. Same with protein. I think sodium's to the nearest 5 milligrams or something like that. So you can look that stuff up. It's all available online. It's not hard to find. The interesting thing is that when it comes, because net carbs are so important to keto dieters, you might think, people do spend a lot of time making them as low net carbs as possible, right? I do too. But the easiest trick to make something low carb is to make it smaller. So if you have the perfect bar, the perfect product, you make it exactly how you want it, and you look and you add up the nutrition, then you have it exactly how you want, and it turns out to be 6 or 7 net carbs. You might say, ooh, my customers are gonna balk at that, or my potential customers, they're not gonna like that. Man, it's hard to change this recipe. How do I do this? You juggle a bunch of different things. Maybe there's some changes you can make, and maybe there aren't. At some point, you're going to sacrifice the quality of your product to get it where you need to be. Maybe not. The easiest way to get it to where you need to be, if you're 10 net carbs and you need it at 5, cut it in half. So we laugh about this at Keto Bars all the time because when new products come out, sometimes they're just so tiny. They're just small products. And we immediately go, they obviously like couldn't get this where they needed to be nutritionally and taste-wise, so they had to make this bar smaller. So I think like, and there's a wide range of bars out there too. So people don't expect every bar to be, like ours is 47 grams, right? Like people don't expect 47 grams across the board. But I would say that's a pretty normal size. Also like candy bars, like traditionally I believe are like 200 to 250 calories. So like we always felt good about being in between there as like, not necessarily a full meal replacement, but certainly not 100 calories where it's like a really light snack or something like that. I remember thinking when Dang Bar came out, of course we order everything that comes in the market we want to try, we want to see, and a lot of products we end up really liking. But my first thought was, oh man, these are pretty small, and they're a little bit higher net carb than a lot of our other competitors. And they had that struggle, and it's a legitimate struggle. It's one that we have too. Certainly when you introduce new ingredients that you haven't worked with before. Anyway, nowhere else is it played harder than in the low calorie game. And it's just, I always laugh when I see commercials come on TV and they're like 100 calories. Like that's like kind of like a magic number in low calorie world. And they're like 100 calories, like guilt-free, all this different stuff. And my first thought is always, I can't wait to see the size of this thing. And it's always teeny tiny, super small. And because you can take something that's high calorie, you can take a Snickers bar and cut it into a little piece that only has 100 calories. So it's just kind of a funny game that people end up playing. And we certainly play it a little bit too. All our bars right now are the exact same size, so we don't play it to like this isn't some scheme, right? Also, at 3 net carbs, people don't really bulk at like, my guess is we could go to 5 net carbs without people freaking out. So we could make our bars bigger. 3 is really nice. It's really competitive in the space. And also, our net carb to fat ratio is the best, I believe, right now on the market. And the only reason we don't do better with that is because if we add any more fat, we're gonna have some pretty serious melting problems when it comes to like shipping on hot days and stuff like that. I mean, that's something that we sweat about all the time, is if our product sits in your mailbox and you live in Texas on a summer day, when you come home, like people are okay with it being soft, but they want that thing to harden back up, or they want the product to go back to its original shape. So when you have a Hershey bar and it sits at 120, you put that in the fridge, like it's never the same. It's a mess, it's a disaster. So we do a lot of temperature testing, and I'm curious about some of our competitors that are a little more recent that we've tested their melting point, and it's not really good. And I foresee a lot of complaints of people being like, these are a mess, especially when it's really expensive. Like the more expensive the product is, the more you pay for something, the more your expectations are set that it needs to be really high quality, and it needs to meet your expectations. If you pay $1 for something and it melts a little bit and it's sloppy, you're like, all right, it was $1. You pay $4, now it's a different story. So I digress. My favorite example, and I think it's somewhat famous in the food industry, of what I would call an abuse of the rule, but it follows the FDA regulation, is Tic Tacs. Tic Tacs are sugar. The number 1 ingredient and 2 ingredients, sugar and maltodextrin, right? That's what they are, and I don't think people think otherwise. But if you look at their label, they're 0 calorie and 0 grams of sugar. How can that be? If your product is sugar, how can it be sugar-free? Well, it's because they're following the FDA regulation of if something contains less than 0.5 grams of sugar, you can call it sugar-free. If we could get keto bars down to 0.49 grams of sugar, we would say it's sugar-free. In fact, I think we'd have to if we're following the regulations. So this is all available online. You can go to Tic Tac's website. You can certainly find pictures of the nutrition label. Guess how much Tic Tacs weigh? 0.49 grams. Guess how much a serving size is? It's 1. They're sugar-free, but they're sugar. That's all they are. So it's kind of a crazy game, and Tic Tacs gets away with it a little bit more because it's a breath mint. So I'm sure there are people that eat the whole box or whatever, but in general, people just have one or two. It doesn't actually have much to do. It's not going to screw up your nutrition that much, right? Like I could eat a Tic Tac right now, half a gram of sugar, all right? Don't want to eat 100 of them, but like just a couple here and there, it's not the end of the world, although I don't eat them. So it's just a funny game people play. I thought I'd just bring it up. It's a really interesting topic, and everybody's doing it. So next time you see a small product, you can be sure that a part of what they're doing is they had some number they needed to hit, whether it be calories, carbs, fat, whatever it is, and that dictated the size. So Greg, thank you for your comment. Hopefully this provides some insight, and please tell me any more questions you have, any comments, one-offs, I mean, just anything. I love hearing from you guys. So thanks again. Talk to you soon.